The planet was far from Earth, orbiting a dim red star that bathed its surface in an eerie crimson glow. The Vraxians had called this world home for centuries, their civilization thriving under the watchful eyes of towering spires and shimmering domes. They were no strangers to space exploration. Their technology dwarfed anything humanity could dream of at this moment. But even they weren't prepared for what they found when their long-range scanners swept across the edge of their galaxy. It wasn't just another barren rock or gas giant floating aimlessly through the void. This new discovery pulsed with life, a pale blue dot nestled among the stars teeming with activity. Its atmosphere shimmered faintly as oceans reflected sunlight back into space. To the Vraxians, it looked almost too perfect, like a jewel waiting to be claimed. Zorak, the leader of the Vraxian Council, leaned forward in his chair, his sharp features illuminated by the holographic display hovering before him. His voice carried authority, yet there was a hint of curiosity beneath the stern tone. "This is unexpected," he said, addressing his advisors gathered around the circular table, a species capable of rudimentary space travel, but nothing more than primitive chemical rockets. How have they survived so long without attracting attention? One of the advisors, a wiry alien named Kren, stepped closer to the projection. He tapped a claw-like finger against the image of Earth. "Their technology is laughable compared to ours. Yet..." He paused, narrowing his slitted eyes. "There's something unusual about their energy signatures. Look here." He zoomed in on a section of the planet, highlighting clusters of faint but distinct signals emanating from various locations. These patterns suggest deliberate attempts to communicate or perhaps even mask their presence. Zorak frowned, his elongated head tilting slightly as he processed the information. Could they know we're watching? Are they trying to lure us in? Kren hesitated before responding. Unlikely. Their broadcast patterns are inconsistent, almost amateurish. If they knew we existed, surely they'd attempt something more sophisticated. Then we must investigate, Zorak declared firmly. Send a reconnaissance fleet to assess their capabilities. If these humans pose any threat, however slight, we will eliminate them before they become a problem. Otherwise, he trailed off, a sly smile spreading across his face. We may find use for their resources and their ingenuity. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, Alex Carter sat hunched over a cluttered desk inside NASA's headquarters in Houston. His fingers danced across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled across multiple monitors. Beside him, Rachel Myers leaned against the wall, arms crossed and brow furrowed. She watched intently as Alex worked, her mind racing with questions. "You're telling me this isn't just random interference?" Rachel finally asked, breaking the silence. Her voice carried both skepticism and unease. Alex glanced up briefly, pushing his glasses further up the bridge of his nose. "Nope. It's definitely not interference. These readings are coming from somewhere near Jupiter. And whatever's causing them, it's big." Rachel sighed, running a hand through her short brown hair. "Big how? Like, we accidentally launched a satellite into deep space big, or aliens are spying on us big?" Alex chuckled nervously. "I wish I could say it was the former. But honestly, Rach, I don't think we've seen anything like this before. The energy signature matches none of our known technologies, not even experimental stuff. Plus, look at this." He pointed to one of the screens, where a series of pulsating waves formed intricate patterns. "It's almost like it's communicating." Rachel straightened, her expression hardening. "Communicating? With who, us?" "That's the thing. I don't know. But if it is, we need to figure out why, and fast." Before either of them could continue, the door to the lab burst open, and General Harold Harry Mitchell strode in. A tall man with graying hair and a commanding presence, Harry wasted no time getting to the point. "Carter Myers," he barked, nodding toward the two scientists. "What do you have for me?" Alex quickly summarized their findings, emphasizing the strange nature of the signals and their proximity to Earth's solar system. As he spoke, Harry's jaw tightened, his weathered face betraying a mix of concern and determination. "When did you first detect these readings?" he asked once Alex finished. "About 12 hours ago," Rachel replied. "Since then, they've grown stronger. Whatever's out there, it's moving closer." Harry nodded slowly, his mind already piecing together the implications. "All right, here's what we're going to do. First, keep monitoring those signals. Second, alert the Joint Chiefs. We might need to activate Project Eclipse sooner than expected." At the mention of Project Eclipse, both Alex and Rachel exchanged worried glances. They had heard whispers about the classified initiative during their time at NASA, but neither fully understood its scope. All they knew was that it involved preparing for potential extraterrestrial threats, a concept that seemed absurd until now. "General," Rachel began cautiously, "isn't Project Eclipse supposed to be a last resort? We don't even know if these signals are hostile." Harry fixed her with a steely gaze. "That's exactly why we're activating it. Better safe than sorry, Dr. Myers. Trust me, if history has taught us anything, it's that assuming the best rarely ends well." As Harry turned to leave, Alex called after him. "Sir, what happens next?" The general stopped mid-step, glancing over his shoulder. "Next, we wait, and we prepare. Because if my gut tells me anything right now, it's that we're about to meet our neighbors and they might not come bearing gifts." Hours later, Alex and Rachel found themselves staring at the same data, still unable to make sense of it. Outside, the night sky stretched endlessly above them, dotted with countless stars. For a brief moment, Rachel allowed herself to wonder which of those distant lights might belong to intelligent beings. Would they be friendly, curious, or would they see humanity as nothing more than pests to exterminate? Her thoughts were interrupted by Alex clearing his throat. "Hey, Rach," he said softly, snapping her back to reality. "Do you think we're ready for this? I mean, really ready?" Rachel hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "Honestly? No. But does anyone ever feel truly prepared for something like this? All we can do is trust that humanity's better instincts will kick in when it matters most." Alex smiled faintly, though there was little humor in it. "Let's hope you're right, because if we screw this up—" He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Both of them knew the stakes. Somewhere out there, beyond the safety of their solar system, forces were gathering, forces that could change the course of human history forever. Whether humanity would rise to meet the challenge or crumble under its weight remained to be seen. And as the two scientists returned to their work, the hum of computers filling the room, neither could shake the feeling that Earth's days of isolation were numbered. The next morning, the sun rose over Houston, casting long shadows across the sprawling campus of NASA's headquarters. Inside the lab, Alex and Rachel worked tirelessly, their eyes glued to the monitors as they analyzed every detail of the mysterious signals. The patterns were becoming clearer now, almost rhythmic in nature, like a heartbeat pulsing through the void of space. But what worried them most was the trajectory. Whatever or whoever was emitting those signals was moving closer to Earth with each passing hour. General Harry Mitchell arrived shortly after sunrise, his boots clicking sharply against the tiled floor as he entered the room. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Update me," he demanded, pulling up a chair and leaning forward, his hands clasped tightly together. Alex took a deep breath before speaking. "The object is still heading toward us, General. Based on its speed and trajectory, it'll reach Jupiter's orbit within 3 days. After that—" He trailed off, glancing at Rachel for support. "It could be here within a week," Rachel finished for him, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. "If it keeps accelerating at this rate, we're looking at something far beyond our current capabilities." Harry nodded grimly, his expression unreadable. "And you're sure it's not just some rogue comet or asteroid?" "We've ruled that out," Alex replied. "The energy signature doesn't match anything natural. It's artificial, designed by someone or something." For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of their discovery hung heavy in the air, pressing down on all three of them. Finally, Harry broke the silence. "All right, let's assume the worst-case scenario. This is an alien probe, or worse, a scout ship. What do we have in place to deal with it?" Rachel hesitated before answering. Not much, sir. Our defenses are designed for human threats, not whatever this might be. Harry's jaw tightened. That's why we have Project Eclipse. I've already contacted the Joint Chiefs, and they've authorized its activation. You two will report directly to me from now on. Alex raised an eyebrow. What exactly does that mean, General? What is Project Eclipse? Harry stood up and motioned for them to follow him. Without another word, he led them down a series of narrow hallways until they reached a secure elevator guarded by armed soldiers. After scanning their IDs and undergoing a retinal scan, the doors slid open, revealing a high-tech command center buried deep beneath the facility. This, Harry said, gesturing to the massive screens lining the walls, is Project Eclipse. For the past 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. We've studied every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on, reverse engineering it to give us an edge when we encountered extraterrestrial life. Rachel's eyes widened as she took in the sheer scale of the operation. Maps of the solar system covered one wall, dotted with red markers indicating defensive positions. On another screen, schematics of advanced weapon systems flickered to life, accompanied by data streams detailing their capabilities. In the center of the room, a holographic model of a derelict spacecraft floated above a circular table. What's that? Alex asked, pointing to the hologram. That, Harry replied, is the Odyssey. It's a decoy, a fake human colony, ship designed to look abandoned. If these aliens are as curious as we think they are, they'll investigate it. And when they do... He paused, allowing a small smile to creep onto his face. They'll find themselves walking into a trap. Rachel frowned, her mind racing with questions. A trap? What kind of trap? Harry gestured for one of the technicians to bring up additional details. As the hologram expanded, revealing hidden compartments and intricate mechanisms, he explained further. Inside the Odyssey, we've installed everything from EMP bursts to nanobot swarms. There are also holographic decoys programmed to mimic human activity, making it seem like the ship is still functional. Once the aliens board, we'll spring the trap and disable their forces. Alex crossed his arms, clearly skeptical. And what happens if they don't fall for it? What if they see through the ruse? Then we adapt, Harry said firmly. This isn't just about brute force, it's about strategy. Every move we make has been carefully planned, every contingency accounted for. But I won't lie to you. This is risky. If things go wrong, we could lose more than just the decoy. That's why I need both of you to focus on monitoring the situation and feeding us real-time intel. Rachel stepped forward, her voice tinged with concern. General, forgive me for asking, but how ethical is this? Setting a trap like this feels aggressive. What if they're peaceful? What if they're just trying to make contact? Harry sighed, his expression softening slightly. I understand your concerns, Dr. Myers. Believe me, I do. But history has taught us that assuming the best rarely ends well. We can't afford to take chances, not with the fate of humanity on the line. Besides, this isn't about aggression, it's about survival. If we show weakness, they'll exploit it. If we show strength, maybe they'll think twice before attacking. Alex glanced at Rachel, sensing her unease. While he shared some of her reservations, he also knew that Harry was right. Humanity couldn't afford to gamble with its future. Still, the moral implications weighed heavily on him. All right, Alex said finally, breaking the tension. So, what's the plan? How do we get the Odyssey into position without tipping them off? Harry turned back to the hologram, tapping a few commands on the console. A new image appeared, showing the proposed flight path of the decoy ship. We'll launch the Odyssey, using a covert shuttle from Mars's orbit. From there, we'll guide it into Jupiter's vicinity, making it look like it malfunctioned and drifted off course. The aliens won't suspect a thing. They'll think it's easy pickings. And once they board, Rachel pressed. Once they board, Harry continued, we activate the traps remotely. Meanwhile, our stealth fighters will be standing by, ready to intercept any reinforcements. This is a multi-layered operation, people. Timing is everything. Over the next several hours, Alex and Rachel threw themselves into the preparations. They worked alongside engineers and programmers, fine-tuning every aspect of The Odyssey. The ship's interior was retrofitted with traps and sensors, while its exterior was deliberately aged to appear battered and abandoned. Holographic projections of humans going about daily tasks were programmed to loop endlessly, creating the illusion of life aboard the vessel. As night fell, Rachel found herself alone in the lab, staring at a live feed of The Odyssey being loaded onto the shuttle. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire, that even the best laid plans could unravel in an instant. Her thoughts were interrupted by Alex entering the room, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You look like you could use this," he said, handing her one of the cups. "Thanks," Rachel muttered, taking a sip. "I just can't stop thinking about what happens next. What if this doesn't work? What if we're wrong about them?" Alex sat down beside her, setting his coffee aside. "I've been thinking about that too. But here's the thing. We can't control what they'll do. All we can do is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Yeah, it's scary. But isn't that what makes us human? Taking risks, even when the odds are stacked against us?" Rachel smiled faintly, appreciating his attempt to reassure her. "You're right, it's just hard to know where the line is between defending ourselves and provoking a war." "I hear you," Alex admitted. "But sometimes you have to trust that doing the right thing, even if it's messy, is better than doing nothing at all." As they sat there in companionable silence, the hum of machinery filling the background, Rachel allowed herself a small measure of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity would rise to the occasion, and if they did, perhaps they'd prove to the universe that Earth wasn't just a pale blue dot. It was home to a species capable of courage, ingenuity, and resilience. Little did they know, their test was closer than they thought. Somewhere, out in the vast expanse of space, the Vraxian fleet was already en route, its commanders eager to uncover the secrets of this strange little planet. Whether humanity was ready or not, the stage was set, and the curtain was about to rise. The launch of the Odyssey was scheduled for the early hours of the morning, when Earth's shadow would provide cover from prying eyes, both human and alien. Alex and Rachel stood on the observation deck of NASA's Mars outpost, their breath fogging up the thick glass as they watched technicians scurry around the sleek shuttle that would carry the decoy ship into position. The tension in the air was palpable, a mix of excitement and dread that neither of them could fully shake. "Do you think this is going to work?" Rachel asked quietly, her gaze fixed on the glowing engines of the shuttle below. Her voice carried a note of uncertainty, though she tried to sound confident. Alex adjusted his glasses, squinting at the scene unfolding beneath them. "It has to," he replied simply. "We've done everything we can to make it convincing. Now it's just a matter of waiting." Rachel turned to him, her brow furrowed. "That's the part I'm not sure about. Waiting. It feels like we're sitting ducks out here, hoping they don't see through our plan." "We're not completely helpless," Alex reminded her. "Remember, we've got stealth fighters on standby, and General Mitchell is monitoring every move the aliens make. If anything goes wrong, we'll know about it." Rachel nodded, but her unease lingered. She trusted Alex. He was one of the smartest people she knew, but even his reassurances couldn't fully dispel the nagging doubt in the back of her mind. What if the Vraxians were smarter than they anticipated? What if they saw right through the ruse? As the countdown began, the room fell silent, except for the steady voice of the mission control operator calling out the final seconds. Rachel held her breath, her fingers gripping the railing tightly. When the engines roared to life, the entire structure vibrated, and a blinding plume of fire shot out from the shuttle's base. Slowly, almost majestically, the craft ascended into the Martian sky, carrying the Odyssey toward its destination near Jupiter. Once the shuttle disappeared from view, Alex and Rachel returned to the command center to track its progress. On the main screen, a live feed showed the trajectory of the shuttle as it navigated the vast emptiness of space. Everything seemed to be going according to plan so far, but both of them knew the real challenge lay ahead, making the decoy ship appear, abandoned without raising suspicion. Hours later, the team received confirmation that the Odyssey had reached its designated position. Using remote controls, they guided the ship into a slow drift, simulating the effects of a catastrophic systems failure. Its hull, deliberately scarred and pockmarked, gleamed dully under the faint light of Jupiter's distant sun. Inside, holographic projections flickered to life, creating the illusion of a crew frozen in stasis pods. To any observer, it looked like a relic of humanity's earliest attempts at deep space exploration, a ghost ship adrift in the void. Back on Mars, Alex and Rachel monitored the situation closely, their eyes glued to the screens displaying data streams from the Odyssey. Every sensor reading, every camera feed was analyzed in real time to ensure nothing seemed out of place. So far, so good. But then came the moment of truth. A sudden alert flashed across the monitors, accompanied by a sharp beep that made everyone in the room jump. One of the technicians quickly brought up the source of the disturbance: a fleet of unidentified vessels entering the solar system. "They're here," Rachel whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the equipment. She exchanged a glance with Alex, who looked equally stunned. General Harry Mitchell strode into the room moments later, his expression grim but resolute. "Status report," he barked, taking his usual spot at the head of the table. "One of our long-range scanners picked up multiple objects approaching from the outer rim," Alex explained, pulling up a visual representation of the alien fleet. "They're moving fast, much faster than anything we've seen before. Based on their formation, it looks like they're heading straight for the Odyssey." Harry studied the image intently, his jaw tightening. "Good. That means the bait worked. Keep tracking their movements, and prepare to activate the traps as soon as they board." Rachel stepped forward, her tone urgent. "Sir, shouldn't we double-check the timing? If we trigger the traps too soon, they might figure out what's happening. But if we wait too long—" "I know," Harry interrupted, his voice firm. "Timing is critical. That's why I want both of you focused on monitoring their actions. Look for any signs that they suspect something is off. We need to strike at the perfect moment, not a second sooner or later." With that, the general left the room, leaving Alex and Rachel to coordinate with the rest of the team. Over the next few hours, the tension in the command center grew unbearable. Everyone moved with quiet efficiency, their faces etched with concentration as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Finally, the alien ships arrived. Through the cameras aboard the Odyssey, Alex and Rachel watched as sleek, angular vessels encircled the decoy ship, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The largest of the ships extended a docking tube, connecting directly to the airlock of the Odyssey. Moments later, a group of figures emerged, clad in sleek suits that reflected the dim light inside the ship. "They're boarding," Alex murmured, his voice tinged with awe and apprehension. He zoomed in on the video feed, studying the aliens' movements carefully. They moved with precision, their heads swiveling as they scanned their surroundings. Despite their advanced appearance, there was something almost mechanical about the way they acted, as though they were following a strict protocol. Rachel leaned closer to the screen, her heart pounding. "They're not wasting any time. Look, they're already checking the stasis pods." Sure enough, the aliens were examining the holographic projections of humans suspended in cryogenic sleep. Their reactions were difficult to read behind their helmets, but their body language suggested curiosity rather than hostility. For now, at least, they seemed to believe the ruse. "They're buying it," Alex said, a hint of relief creeping into his voice. "Now all we have to do is wait for them to get deeper into the ship." Rachel nodded, though her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of the console. "Let's hope they don't find anything suspicious. If they realize this is a trap, they won't," Alex assured her, though his own nerves were starting to fray. "We've thought of everything, right?" Before Rachel could respond, another alert popped up on the screen. This time it was coming from outside the Odyssey. A second wave of alien ships had entered the vicinity, positioning themselves strategically around the decoy vessel. It was clear they weren't taking any chances. "Looks like they're sending reinforcements," Rachel observed, her voice tense. "What should we do?" "Nothing yet," Alex replied, forcing himself to stay calm. Let's see how this plays out. Maybe they're just being cautious. For several agonizing minutes, the team waited, watching as the first group of aliens continued their exploration of the Odyssey. Then, without warning, one of them paused near a seemingly innocuous panel on the wall. With a swift motion, the alien pressed a button, triggering a hidden mechanism. "Oh no," Rachel gasped, her eyes widening in alarm. "They found one of the traps." "Not yet," Alex countered, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "That panel doesn't activate anything, it's just a dummy switch. They're testing us." Relief washed over Rachel as she realized Alex was right. The alien examined the panel briefly before moving on, apparently satisfied that it posed no threat. Still, the incident served as a stark reminder of how precarious their situation was. One wrong move, and the entire operation could unravel. As the minutes ticked by, the aliens ventured further into the ship, unaware of the dangers lurking just beyond their reach. Back on Mars, Alex and Rachel exchanged nervous glances, knowing that the most critical phase of their plan was about to begin. The nanobots, the EMP bursts, the holograms, all of it hinged on perfect execution. "This is it," Rachel whispered, her voice barely audible. "If we pull this off, we might actually stand a chance." Alex nodded, his expression determined. "Then let's make sure we don't screw it up." With those words, they turned their attention back to the screens, ready to spring the trap that could determine the fate of humanity. The stage was set, the players in place, and the outcome uncertain. All they could do now was trust in their preparation and hope for the best. The air in the command center on Mars was thick with anticipation. Alex and Rachel sat side by side, their eyes glued to the monitors as the alien boarding party moved deeper into the Odyssey. The holographic projections of frozen humans continued to fool the intruders who methodically inspected every corner of the ship. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, as though driven by a shared hive mind rather than individual thought. "They're thorough," Alex muttered under his breath, adjusting the feed from one of the hidden cameras. "Too thorough." Rachel nodded, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as she prepared to activate the first layer of traps. "That's what worries me. If they keep poking around like this, they might stumble onto something we didn't account for." "Let's not borrow trouble yet," Alex replied, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. "So far, they're playing right into our hands." On the screen, the aliens reached the central chamber of the Odyssey, where rows of stasis pods lined the walls. Each pod contained a lifelike hologram of a human suspended in cryogenic sleep, designed to appear realistic enough to fool even the most advanced sensors. One of the aliens approached a pod, tilting its head as it examined the figure inside. Its gloved hand extended toward the glass, tapping it lightly before moving on. "They're buying it," Rachel said softly, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, for now at least. General Harry Mitchell entered the room just then, his boots clicking sharply against the tiled floor. He glanced at the monitors, his sharp eyes scanning the scene unfolding aboard the Odyssey. "Status?" he asked, without preamble. "They've made it to the main chamber," Alex reported. "No signs of suspicion so far, but they're being careful. Too careful." Harry frowned, folding his arms across his chest. "Careful is good. It means they're not expecting trouble. Stick to the plan. Activate the nanobots once they're fully inside." Rachel hesitated, glancing at the general. "Sir, are you sure about this? Once we trigger the traps, there's no turning back." "That's why we planned for every contingency," Harry replied firmly. "Trust the process, Dr. Myers. We've only got one shot at this." With that, he turned and left the room, leaving Alex and Rachel to carry out the next phase of the operation. They exchanged a quick look, silently acknowledging the gravity of the moment. This was it, the point of no return. Back aboard the Odyssey, the aliens spread out, splitting into smaller groups to cover more ground. One team headed toward the engineering bay, while another moved toward the navigation deck. Unbeknownst to them, both areas were rigged with traps designed to disable their equipment and disrupt their communications. As the group in the engineering bay began examining the exposed circuitry, Alex activated the first wave of nanobots. Invisible to the naked eye, the microscopic machines swarmed through the vents, slipping unnoticed into the alien suits. Within seconds, the nanobots infiltrated their systems, targeting key components like oxygen regulators and communication devices. "They're in," Alex whispered, watching the readouts on his monitor. "Now we wait for the effects to kick in." Rachel leaned closer, her eyes darting between the screens. "What's happening?" "The nanobots are disabling their gear," Alex explained. "Their weapons should be offline within minutes. After that, we'll hit them with the EMP burst." Sure enough, subtle changes began to occur among the aliens. Some paused mid-movement, tapping their helmets as if trying to clear static from their ears. Others fumbled with their belts, apparently struggling to access tools or weapons. None of them seemed to realize what was happening. Not yet. But then one of the aliens froze, its head snapping up as though sensing danger. It raised an arm, signaling to its companions, and within moments the entire group had regrouped near the entrance to the engineering bay. They spoke in low tones, their language incomprehensible but urgent. "They know something's wrong," Rachel said, her voice tight with tension. "What do we do?" "Stick to the plan," Alex replied, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Initiate the EMP burst now." Without hesitation, Rachel triggered the electromagnetic pulse. A faint hum filled the air aboard the Odyssey as the EMP surged through the ship, temporarily disabling all electronic devices within range. The aliens staggered, their suits sparking faintly as the pulse overwhelmed their systems. For a brief moment, chaos reigned as they stumbled blindly, unable to communicate or coordinate. "We did it," Alex breathed, relief washing over him. "They're disoriented." "Don't celebrate too soon," Rachel warned, her gaze fixed on the monitors. "Look." On the screen, the aliens began recovering faster than expected. Though their equipment remained offline, they quickly adapted, relying on hand signals and physical gestures to regroup. With surprising efficiency, they formed a defensive perimeter, their bodies tense and alert. "They're smarter than we thought," Alex admitted, his earlier confidence wavering. "This isn't over." Meanwhile, outside the Odyssey, the second wave of alien ships responded to the disturbance. Several smaller vessels detached from the mothership and approached the decoy ship, their weapons charging ominously. Back on Mars, General Mitchell watched the development unfold with growing concern. "They're onto us," he growled, addressing the technicians in the command center. "Prepare the stealth fighters for launch. If those reinforcements get too close, we'll need to intercept them." Alex and Rachel listened intently, their hearts pounding. The situation was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated. What had started as a carefully orchestrated trap was rapidly spiraling into a full-blown confrontation. "Should we activate the holograms?" Rachel asked, referring to the final layer of deception. Hidden projectors throughout the Odyssey were programmed to create lifelike illusions of armed humans, designed to confuse and intimidate the invaders. "Do it," Alex replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Let's see how they react." With a few keystrokes, Rachel brought the holograms online. Suddenly, the corridors of the Odyssey came alive with phantom figures, men and women clad in tactical gear, wielding weapons that shimmered in the dim light. The aliens froze, their heads snapping toward the apparitions as they materialized around them. "It's working," Rachel whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They're falling for it." For a moment, the aliens hesitated, clearly unsure whether the holograms were real or some kind of trick. Then, one of them raised a hand, gesturing for the others to fall back. Slowly, cautiously, they began retreating toward the docking tube, their movements deliberate and controlled. "They're pulling out," Alex said, a note of triumph creeping into his voice. "We've got them on the run." But Rachel wasn't convinced. "This feels too easy. Why would they retreat after coming all this way? Something's not right." Her instincts proved correct moments later when the lead alien paused at the threshold of the docking tube. It turned back, raising a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. Instantly, the holograms flickered and dissolved, revealing the empty corridors of the Odyssey. "They've counteracted the projections," Rachel gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "How did they do that?" "I don't know," Alex replied, his expression grim. "But we're running out of tricks." As the aliens disappeared back into their ship, severing the connection to the Odyssey, the command center erupted into frantic activity. Technicians scrambled to analyze the new data, while General Mitchell barked orders to prepare for the next phase of defense. "They'll be back," Harry warned, his voice cutting through the chaos. "And next time, they won't underestimate us." Alex and Rachel exchanged a worried glance, knowing the battle was far from over. The aliens had proven themselves resourceful and adaptable, traits that made them even more dangerous. Humanity's ingenuity had bought them some time, but whether it would be enough remained to be seen. As the alien fleet regrouped outside the Odyssey, the stage was set for the next round of this deadly game. Both sides had shown their cards, but the outcome was still uncertain. All Alex and Rachel could do now was brace themselves for what came next, and hope that humanity's resilience would prevail. The alien fleet hovered ominously near the Odyssey, its ships glinting faintly in the dim light of Jupiter's distant sun. Inside the command center on Mars, Alex and Rachel watched as the invaders regrouped, their movements deliberate and calculated. The brief victory they had felt moments earlier was quickly fading, replaced by a growing sense of dread. "They're not leaving," Rachel said softly, her eyes fixed on the monitors. "They're planning something." Alex nodded, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Yeah, but what? They've already seen through our traps. If they decide to attack, we're sitting ducks out here." General Harry Mitchell paced back and forth in the room, his boots clicking sharply against the floor. He stopped abruptly, turning to face the two scientists. "We need options, now. What else do we have up our sleeves?" Rachel hesitated before responding. "Not much, sir. The nanobots are still active inside their suits, but they seem to have adapted to the interference. As for the EMP burst..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "That only slowed them down. It didn't stop them." Harry's jaw tightened, his expression unreadable. "Then we'll have to rely on Plan B. Activate the stealth fighters. We can't let them get any closer to Earth." Alex glanced at Rachel, his brow furrowed. "Stealth fighters? Against ships like that? Even with surprise on our side, it's risky." "It's all we've got," Harry replied firmly. "If we don't act now, they'll figure out exactly how vulnerable we are. Better to take the fight to them while we still can." With no time to waste, Alex and Rachel relayed the order to the pilots stationed aboard the stealth fighters. These advanced crafts, hidden from view thanks to cutting-edge cloaking technology, were humanity's last line of defense against the alien threat. Each fighter was equipped with experimental weapons designed to penetrate even the toughest shields, but whether they would be enough remained to be seen. Minutes later, the stealth fighters launched from their positions near Saturn's rings, their engines silent as they streaked toward the alien fleet. Piloted by some of the best aviators Earth had to offer, the squadron moved with precision, staying just outside the range of the alien's sensors. Among the pilots was Jake Thompson, a seasoned veteran known for his quick thinking and steady hands. Beside him flew Maria Rodriguez, a rookie with nerves of steel and an uncanny ability to anticipate enemy moves. "Stay sharp," Jake radioed to the team, his voice calm but firm. "Remember, we only get one shot at this. Make it count." Maria adjusted her controls, her eyes scanning the readouts on her dashboard. "Copy that. Target locked. Ready when you are." As the squadron approached the alien ships, the tension in the cockpit was palpable. None of them knew exactly what to expect. The Vraxians' technology far surpassed anything humanity had encountered before, and their defensive capabilities were largely unknown. All they could do was trust in their training and hope for the best. When the stealth fighters entered firing range, Jake gave the signal. "Execute." At once, the squadron unleashed a barrage of missiles, each one programmed to home in on the weakest points of the alien vessels. The projectiles streaked through space, invisible to the naked eye until they struck their targets. Explosions erupted across the hulls of several ships, sending shards of metal spiraling into the void. For a moment, it seemed like the attack had caught the aliens completely off guard. "Yes," Maria exclaimed, pumping her fist in triumph. Direct hits, but her celebration was short-lived. Within seconds, the damaged ships began repairing themselves, their surfaces shimmering as nanoscopic machines worked tirelessly to seal the breaches. The aliens hadn't been idle either. Their remaining vessels turned sharply, deploying countermeasures that neutralized the incoming missiles before they could cause further damage. "They're regenerating," Jake shouted, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Fall back! Fall back!" The stealth fighters retreated hastily, narrowly avoiding retaliatory fire from the alien fleet. Back on Mars, Alex and Rachel watched the skirmish unfold in real time, their hearts sinking as the tide of battle shifted. "They're adapting too fast," Rachel muttered, her voice trembling. "We can't keep up." Harry clenched his fists, frustration etched across his face. "Damn it, this isn't working. We need another plan, and fast." While the humans scrambled to devise a new strategy, the aliens wasted no time pressing their advantage. The largest ship in their fleet, a massive vessel bristling with weapons, moved into position above the Odyssey. Its underside opened, revealing a cluster of drones that swarmed toward the decoy ship like insects descending on prey. "They're sending in reinforcements," Alex said, pointing to the screen. "Looks like they're trying to secure the area." Rachel leaned closer, her expression grim. "If they manage to take control of the Odyssey, they'll have access to everything, including our tech." "We can't let that happen," Alex replied, his tone resolute. "Activate the self-destruct sequence. If they want the ship, they'll have to pry it from our cold, dead hands." Harry nodded in agreement. "Do it, but make sure the explosion doesn't compromise our position. We can't afford to tip them off about the outpost." With a few keystrokes, Rachel initiated the countdown. Deep within the Odyssey, hidden charges began arming themselves, set to detonate in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Alex worked frantically to ensure the blast radius would remain contained, sparing the surrounding area from collateral damage. Back aboard the alien flagship, Commander Vexus observed the situation with growing suspicion. Something about the sudden spike in energy readings aboard the Odyssey didn't sit right with her. Turning to her second-in-command, she issued a sharp order. "Send a scan team to investigate, and tell the engineers to prepare for possible evacuation. I don't trust this." Moments later, a group of aliens boarded the Odyssey. Once again, this time moving with even greater caution. Their scanners picked up the faint hum of the arming charges, confirming Vexus's suspicions. Realizing they had walked into another trap, the aliens immediately reversed course, retreating back to their ship just as the countdown reached 0. The explosion was spectacular, lighting up the darkness of space with a brilliant flash. Shrapnel from the Odyssey scattered in all directions, peppering the nearby alien vessels. Though none of them sustained critical damage, the blast succeeded in driving them farther away from the wreckage. "Well done," Harry said, clapping Alex and Rachel on the shoulders. "You bought us some breathing room," but Rachel shook her head, her gaze fixed on the monitors. "It's not over. Look." On the screen, the alien fleet began reorganizing, forming a tight formation around their flagship. It was clear they weren't giving up. They were merely regrouping for another assault. "What now?" Alex asked, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Harry straightened, his expression hardened by resolve. "Now we dig in. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Humanity has survived worse than this. We won't go down without a fight." As the command center buzzed with renewed activity, Alex and Rachel exchanged a glance. They both knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that surrender wasn't an option. Humanity had shown its ingenuity, its courage, and its determination. If nothing else, they would prove to the universe that Earth wasn't a planet to be trifled with. And so, as the alien fleet prepared for its next move, the stage was set for a clash that would define the fate of two species. The outcome remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. Neither side was backing down anytime soon.